Hi, we're back again. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Emma, and yourself?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I'm good. After a very relaxed weekend, I feel even better. So it's good to see you. It's good to see you. So today we are talking about risk and resilience.
Okay.
I felt like from our very first video when we touched on that risk needs to be the bedrock of learning, that it's kind of a key conversation really about how we support our SEND children or all children to be honest to take effective risks in the classroom and how that builds up resilience. And I really felt that that was an interesting one because I feel happens a lot of the time for all children, to be honest, but definitely us and children who have different capacities, is that resilience can be eroded quite quickly in the face of too much risk and the zones of risk not being quite supported. So I thought it'd be a good conversation for us to have today.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it does tie in with that first conversation we had about connection and safety and trust and all those words, because I think people are more likely to take risks, and we touched on this. Obviously, people and little people are much more likely to take
Yeah,
risks if they feel they're in an environment where that will be supported, and the more likely we are and children are to taking risks, the more likely we are to grow and to sort of flourish. And I think so. Yeah, I think it's a really important conversation to have, definitely.
definitely. So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, do we plan enough as teachers, as educators, for safe risk? So I know me, like when you're planning your lessons, you don't think about it as a risk, right? You're like, okay, this is what they have to learn next, this is what we're doing. But do we plan it with that concept in mind that for some children, this is going to be quite a stretch? And actually, if we plan it in mind, what steps would we put in place differently? And I think that's quite interesting to have a think through. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's not something I've considered before, really, to having that sort of section. And I suppose for me, a lot of my experience has been around sort of almost planning in the moment, really, sort of so through play-based learning and working with younger children, and children who are at a level where play is really crucial. And in those circumstances, I think it's more of a sort of mindset thing of throughout your day, how you are going to try and push children and push them a little bit further so they
Mhm.
are taking sort of those risks.
Yeah,
It can be really simple things as well. And obviously, we're both parents, and um, maybe not obviously, but we are.
yeah, we are. Yeah,
And I think sometimes it's stuff you do with little ones. Sometimes you be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful, and it's just sort of pre-programmed that you're almost that level of caution because you are overthinking what could go wrong in a scenario. And obviously, that's more related to sort of physical things often,
yeah,
maybe physical learning outside in a playground or I don't know, at the seaside climbing on rocks or whatever. And you have
yeah.
to sort of, as an educator, and sort of teach yourself as a parent to sort of rein that in a little bit and be like, no, okay,
Okay.
let's go for this. You're constantly sort of assessing risk yourself
Yeah,
in a learning space and at home, um, and it's sort of reining yourself in a little bit to actually, if I'm constantly telling this child, be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful, be cautious, they're less likely to feel brave about having a
yeah.
go at something.
I agree with that so much, so much. And obviously reflecting as a parent as well and an educator. So my son has additional needs. And it's been such a conscious thing for me around how I parent him. My whole desire is to go, come here, let
Yeah,
me nurture you, let me hold you really
yeah,
close. That's the feeling that I've got constantly. But actually, what I've had to truly, truly learn and allow is for him to keep pushing that boundary. I'm sure I'm going to suffer for that at some point. But actually, without him pushing that boundary and showing me, actually, mommy, this is where I'm stopping, or actually, mommy, I'm ready to go that next step is actually where his growth and potential will be. Because if I put his need or his thought, the idea of his need in my mind, I would stop him from doing some things. And I think that natural desire to nurture is actually something we have to combat in that picture, especially when a child may appear to have limitations. And actually, you've got to take off what I like to call the concrete ceiling off them, because sometimes these labels can be a bit, can keep people quite stuck. And so just moving that layer and going, okay, I'm holding back, can be quite worrying for the adult, isn't it, really? But
Yeah,
actually, that push through is where you see true potential, and then when you actually see where the gap or the barrier might be,
yeah.
for that child and that person's learning.
Yeah, and I think it can be in that sort of, like we said, like more physical risk taking type stuff, but even just in
Mhm.
activities that we plan where we think this is going to be the end point. This is like, once we get to that point, we're done and the learning's finished and the teaching's finished. But it's actually being more open minded, more open ended, and saying this
Yeah.
could go in a different direction, and I'm okay with that. Almost
Yes.
like, as the educator, I'm happy to take that risk. And again, that's so early years. He really sort of just having that
Yeah.
open ended, this could go in whatever direction his child wants it to go in, and the more creative, the better. And I think
Yeah.
that's
I
really
wonder.
important. I think.
Yeah, I think so. I wonder how we, apologies, I wonder how we allow that feeling to run through education, because actually we shouldn't be giving up on that, should we? That
No,
open-ended, here we go, let's have a go type approach to everything. And I'm not saying that all classrooms do this, but there is a propensity, isn't there, to kind of have this formula in a lesson of this is where we're going to start, this is where we're going to end. And time constraints, all the things that we know about for those classrooms. But it's how do we really adopt that side? Because I think unique learners actually need that side where actually there's this open-ended, have a go, who are you in this learning experience moment? And I think that that takes a lot, again, going back to brave leadership, like brave teaching, of where we go, actually, for the next 15 minutes of this lesson, I'm not going to curate. I'm not going to plan. I'm going to see what happens with the mayhem of 30 odd children. But, I'm going to give a bit of structure, because I think that that's truly missing as well in terms of how um, learning matures, let's say. We kind of mature it in a way where it's very focused and structured, etc. And I think there is space and scope for that real explorative thinking, and play and
yeah,
play.
definitely. And that's a really frustrating aspect of education for me, to be honest.
Mm,
And not just education, sort of working life as well. I feel like we
yes,
need our creative juices to be flowing. And I was
definitely.
when we said we were going to be talking about this, and often my mind does sort of switch to sport, I'm afraid, and football and stuff.
Okay.
But there's a one of the most famous players in England, Jack Grealish, who used to play in your neck of the woods, and
Yes.
he was sort of this amazing footballer for Aston Villa, and he used to be so exciting and attacking, and he used to run at people and take them on and take risks,
Yeah.
um, and then he got this big transfer to Manchester City where he was going to win lots of trophies, which he did, and
Okay.
money and all the rest of it. But the sort of consensus is really that those 4 years that he was there, he didn't grow as a player, and actually he was told safety first is important. You keep the ball is the most important thing. Not
Okay.
don't go running at the defender. Don't do all those things that used to work at Villa and got the crowd on their feet and made
Okay.
everyone excited. And so his game really sort of he sort of came into himself and shrunk into his
Plateaued a
shell a
bit.
bit. And then he left there in the summer and went to Everton. And their manager has said, "No, go for it. I want to see that old Jack sort of thing." And I sort of compare
Yeah.
that as an analogy to sort of what happens in schools. Often, say in a reception classroom where we're worried about our early learning goals, and so we get more formal, more safe,
Yeah.
less risk taking, less play. And we might win the trophies. We might get that really high percentage of
Yeah.
development, or those. And same in year six, it's like those schools that are maybe being really safe, and they're going to teach towards the SATs papers from Christmas every afternoon. We're doing a mock paper or whatever. And yeah,
Yeah.
they'll get the best results, but they're not growing those individual children. They're not taking those risks.
Yeah.
And it's a real safety first approach. And
Yeah.
it's boring. And the children will not be growing as little individuals. And I think that's
That's true.
important to consider that, really.
That is so true. And I think that creativity piece, isn't it? How do we make sure that we don't squash our creativity in our young people, and ensure that they have enough space to, yeah, as I said, just have a go. Who are they going to be? What kind of learner are they going to be? What kind of employee are they going to be? Where is that? And I think you're completely spot on. I was actually reflecting with a colleague the other day about the types of leaders that I've worked underneath. And honestly, it's like chalk and cheese at times. And I can feel the difference in me in those jobs. I felt the difference in me, should I say, in those jobs because of the way that the leader was. And so, again, a leader who's able to go, these are parameters, but within those parameters, have fun, right?
Yeah.
Go and have fun, do your thing, bring it back. Let's see what's happening. Let's reflect, where actually for some leaders the parameters get so tight that actually your creativity, your ability, your well-being actually gets reduced as well in those times, because now the person in you is being reduced. And I
Yeah.
think that that's really, really key, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's just again the analogy of and comparing it to what we do
Yeah,
day to day in our normal lives. We want to feel a buzz. We want to feel excited about doing something. We want to be creative. We don't want things to be mundane, and it's exactly the same for children. I think
most definitely.
obviously we said we're going to talk about risk taking and resilience, and I think both of those things are things that we model, and we say, no, I'm going to have a go at that, or I'm going to give you freedom. I'm taking a risk, and I want you to take a risk. And this
Most
might actually not be very productive the next half hour, but let's have a go anyway, and let's see where it takes us. And I
Yeah,
think sort of on that sort of notion of modeling, I think with resilience as well, it's sort of showing children that it's okay to maybe become a bit frustrated, but are we going to give up? Are we going to say, oh, throw that idea out the window then? Or are
it's
we
like,
going to sort of
yeah,
model almost inappropriate responses at home and at school to when things don't go our way, we're just going to chuck the toys out the pram? Or are we going
yeah,
to say, well, okay, try again, we'll have another go? And it's that's children pick up on that so much.
so
The way that
much.
we respond to adversity, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I actually just hitting on the point made earlier, I think there is a massive well-being element to this, isn't it? As
Yeah.
well, like being able to take healthy risks and being able to be resilient all supports our mental health picture. And I know that we've got a lot of conversations around our young people and resilience at this point and how their mental health is going. And I was just reflecting as you were speaking about the fact that we've all had moments in life. I've had my very fair share. And what I find for myself is after a big event in life or after something that may have knocked me off center, learning something new actually helps me to be regrounded. Something really random like, Duolingo, let's learn Spanish, just doing something that the brain and the body connects to can really help to start to regulate and reground. And I think in terms of that risk and resilience piece, we've got to understand that in that is our well-being as well, because being too safe can potentially have a harm in that space.
Yeah, and it covers what you're saying there. It's all about self-esteem, isn't it? And
Yeah,
when we feel that sort of higher levels of self-esteem and we feel like we're achieving something, and that example you've given there, sort of
yeah.
learn a new language or I've learned to say something in you feel again that sort of buzziness of like, oh yeah, and you feel more positive about
All
yourself. You feel
right.
more, yeah, feel more capable. And again, they're all
Yeah,
things that we want our children to feel,
most
regardless of their
definitely.
starting points. And obviously, yeah, we're chatting in the main in our roles about children with learning differences and disabilities, and we
Yeah,
need to instill that confidence and self-esteem and positive feeling in those young children
most
for them
definitely.
to achieve.
Most definitely. And I think that's why when we talk about STEM, we're talking about everyone, aren't we? And I
Yeah,
think that's the thing when we separate these titles, it's actually just our humanness at play,
yeah,
just in different forms, and recognizing that actually our children who see the world differently or respond to the world differently actually probably need and do need the exact same things we've just been talking about in terms of risk, resilience, being supported in it. Sometimes you need to go a little closer and sometimes you can go a bit wider, but actually, that's what all of our children need, regardless of the title, the label, or whatever it is that's there. So we've got to get more confidence in ourselves as educators of children that are different so that we can allow them to be confident in their difference. And I think that's really key in terms of the risk and resilience piece for them.
I think that's a brilliant way to sum it up, Emma. We
Wonderful.
sign off then.
Sure, definitely. That's good. Take care.